It was one of those sprawling, chaotic flea markets where forgotten things go to find a second life, or perhaps a final resting place. Tucked away behind a stall selling rusty farm equipment, I found it. An antique mirror, tall and imposing, with a heavy, tarnished silver frame. The glass was slightly warped, giving it a dreamlike quality. The seller, a wiry old man with eyes that seemed to hold a century of stories, watched me approach. A word of advice, he said, his gaze fixed on the mirror's surface. Especially not late at night. I laughed it off as a sales gimmick, a bit of folklore to add to the mirror's mystique. If only I had listened. Back in my apartment, the mirror transformed the space. It dominated the living room, its ornate frame a stark contrast to my modern furniture. For the first few days, it was just a beautiful object. I'd catch my reflection as I passed, pleased with my find. Everything was perfectly normal, a perfect one-to-one reflection of my world. The seller's warning became a funny little anecdote I told my friends. Then the small things started. I'd walk into the room and notice the reflection of a book on the coffee table was slightly askew. I'd straighten the real book, only to find its reflection remained stubbornly out of place. I blamed the warped glass, the play of light, but the discrepancies grew. I'd leave my bedroom door closed, but in the mirror it would be hanging wide open, revealing the dark space within. Shadows in the reflection seemed to stretch and writhe in ways the real shadows did not. One evening I was standing before it, exhausted after a long day. I wasn't smiling. My face was a mask of fatigue. But in the mirror, my reflection wore a wide, unnerving grin. The eyes were the same, but the expression was alien. It was a cold, predatory smile that sent a shiver down my spine. I blinked hard, and it was gone. My own tired face stared back. I told myself I was just seeing things, that stress was getting to me. The incidents became more frequent, more blatant. The reflection of my cat would be sleeping on the couch while the real cat was purring at my feet. The reflection would move independently. I'd raise my right hand. It would raise its left, but a fraction of a second too late. A deliberate, mocking delay. It was no longer just a reflection. It was an observer, a mimic. I started to fear it. I avoided looking at it, keeping my eyes down as I walked through the living room. The air in the apartment grew heavy, cold, as if the mirror was chilling the very molecules around it. I couldn't sleep. I'd lie in bed, heart pounding, convinced I could hear a faint, rhythmic tapping coming from the living room. One night, I couldn't ignore it anymore. The tapping was louder, more insistent. The clock on the wall glowed. 3 a.m. The witching hour. The sound was definitely coming from the mirror. As I stood frozen in the doorway, I saw it. My reflection stood there, its face calm, and knocked again, tap, tap, a slow, deliberate sound that echoed in the silent room. Its eyes met mine, and that awful wide smile spread across its face again. Pure terror finally broke my paralysis. I grabbed the thickest blanket I could find and threw it over the mirror, trying to smother the image, to block it out. For a moment there was silence. Then, slowly, impossibly, the blanket began to slide. It slipped down the smooth surface, inch by inch, before pooling on the floor. I tried again with a heavy sheet, tucking it tightly around the frame. It held for a few seconds before it too was pushed off from within, slithering to the ground like a dead snake. I spent the rest of the night huddled in my bedroom, a chair wedged under the doorknob, listening to the intermittent knocking that didn't stop until the first rays of dawn touched my window. I knew I had to get rid of it. I couldn't smash it. A primal fear told me that would be a terrible mistake. I decided I would take it back to the flea market, leave it where I found it. The next morning, I felt a strange sense of calm. The fear from the night before felt distant, like a dream. The sun was shining, the air in the apartment felt light again. I walked into the living room, ready to wrestle the heavy mirror out the door. I glanced at my reflection. It looked tired, but normal. I raised my hand to my face, and it mirrored the action perfectly. I smiled, a real, genuine smile of relief, and then I felt it. A coldness, a strange, glassy surface against my fingertips. I wasn't touching my skin, I was touching glass. I looked at my hands, then back at the room behind me. It was all backward, the text on the book cover was reversed. The door handle was on the wrong side, and there, standing in my living room, in my world, was my other self. It looked at me, its expression one of pure triumph. It raised its hand, not in a wave, but in a final, mocking goodbye. It turned its back on me, on the mirror, and walked towards the kitchen to make coffee, whistling a cheerful tune. I screamed, but no sound came out. I beat my fists against the cold, unyielding glass, but it didn't even vibrate. I was the reflection now, trapped. Weeks, or maybe months, have passed. I watch my life being lived by an imposter. I see it talking to my friends, going to my job, sleeping in my bed. Sometimes, late at night, it stands before the mirror and just smiles, that terrible, cold smile. It knows I'm here. This morning, it wrapped the mirror in a blanket and carried me out of the apartment. We're in a car now. I can see the familiar, chaotic stalls of the flea market coming into view. It's setting me up, leaning me against a pile of old furniture, and now I see you. You're looking at the frame, at the slightly warped glass. You're admiring it. The man with me, the thing wearing my face, names a price. It's almost suspiciously low. Don't do it. Please, walk away. Don't buy this mirror. Don't take me home with you. Please, don't look away.